Hi, my name is Terumah, and we are in the 19th portion of the cycle, yearly cycle, and the name of this is Terumah, which means contributions. So as we have gone from 18, where we saw that it's the number for high, the letter, the word that means life. And we're coming now into the center. The Father has taken us into this progression. He took us out of Egypt. He has taken us through that narrow place. And now he is setting us up in the middle of a large place, in the middle of the wilderness, where he is going to detox that slavery out of us. And we will see as we get closer and closer into this portion, how as we study the building of the furniture of that in the inner place in the tabernacle, we are going to see how we are going to build the ark first. Literally, we're building our hearts first. We need to put our hearts in the right perspective in order to live out and walk out that freedom that he has given us. So the 19th letter in the Hebrew alphabet is Kuf. And Kuf, the number that it represents is 100. Kuf is also a letter for holiness. We get Kadosh from it, and or holy. And that word means something that has been set apart for a purpose. So all that we're going to study in this portion and in the portions to come, actually, it's going to be how are we set apart? How are we, what is really holy? The word holy means to God. It's not a little halo on our head. It's not, we just walk very sober and we never laugh and are very quiet and are very meek. And all this stereotype that we've been given about holiness, which is not what God calls holy. Holy is, it's not that that is not good. You know, if that's your personality and that's something that you feel comfortable in being like that, then by all means, that is okay. If that is not your personality like mine, then does it mean I'm not holy? No. If I laugh and if I troll around in the sanctuary, that doesn't make me unholy because I'm doing something different that somebody else. God has made us all in his image, and we all have a little part of him. He is a little bit of all of that. And the whole purpose of being holy is that we are not like the rest. And just like the firstborn is whatever his personality is, he's just the first one that was born in that family. And he passes down the traditions, he passes down the rules of the house. He's the one that have lived with the parents the longest and has learned their ways, and he passes it down to the siblings. That's all there is. So as firstborn, he has taken us out of Egypt, and now he is telling us, okay, so I'm going to teach you how to walk, and I'm going to teach you how to teach your brothers and sisters, because I've made you ministers of reconciliation, and you are royal priesthood, and it is your duty now to pass on my commandments, my rules and regulations, my instructions to those that are going to place around you, so that they can understand from another human being how to live out the rules of the kingdom of God. We're ambassadors too, right? So we are showing everyone as ambassador of, like, if I am an ambassador of Venezuela, I will tell you about my country. I will tell you what we eat, what we like, what we don't like, where we're at in the world, what is the typical clothing that we wear, our costumes and history and all that. It's the same thing. We are learning all that from our Father, and we are teaching those around us this is the kingdom. This is where we are from. And let me tell you a little bit about the king. Let me tell you a little bit about our father, because he's your father too. He created you too. So that is just in a nutshell what that makes us different. We're not more special or better than anybody for that matter. We're all the same. We have the same father and we're all the same. But we have lived as firstborn longer with him, and we're walking in things that our younger brothers and sisters haven't walked in yet. And that's just makes us the firstborn. So as we see, we're drawn into very subtly into this, into the things that really matter to our Father, as we see how he gives very detailed instruction to Moses. He tells him, he shows him everything he has shown him up in the mountain, the pattern and how to do it, and all the information needed for him to make this furniture and how to make this house for him. And so when we are when we're squeezed, when there's pressure on us, just like going through Egypt, going through that birth canal into a wider and bigger place, whatever has been lodged in us, whatever has filled us, it's going to come out. So he is helping us understand our slave mentality, the things that we think are normal, the things that we have accepted as part of our life that are not. And he's saying, listen, just look how I make this so that you have an understanding of who you really are from my perspective, not the world's perspective. Because according to the world, if you don't look a certain way, talk a certain way, move a certain way, have a certain kind of friends and a special type of job, or live in a certain country or community, then that labels you into or fits you into a category that is better or worse than others, etc. And that is not how our Father sees us. So he's saying, okay, let me show you what that looks like. And we are and since this is the first time that we get into explaining, that he's explaining to us the parts of the furniture in this place, this tabernacle, this tent of meeting, where he comes, where he wants to meet with us, where he wants to spend time with us, just like he did with Adam and Eve, and he created the garden. Now he's given us the instructions how to create this place so that we can also bring him into our world. He took Adam and Eve into his garden, and now we're creating this so that he can come and dwell with us. And so we're just going to have a bird's view of that today. And the more we walk and the longer we walk, the more the Holy Spirit is going to highlight things. We're going to understand it better. And this is just very basic. I'm not going to go into a lot of depth into this because it's our first time, and we'll get to that in the portions that are coming. We're going to be in Exodus for a little while. So what is number 19? So 19, also, in order for me to remember this and for me to memorize it and to make it part of me, I think of 10. We talked about that before. 10 is that number of like a congregation, is a number of testing, is a number of trial. And then 9, it's also the 9 months of gestation, right? It's all the weeks, which are 40 weeks, like the 40 years in the desert. So it's a time that we're being formed. He is rotting us. He is molding us in our mother's womb, in this case, in his in his womb of grace, because that pillar of cloud that separated that guided them, and during the time of the going through the Red Sea, separated them from the Egyptians. He created a wall between them. It's kind of like a wall, and it's a protection that they've been under for those 40 years. Their clothes didn't grow, didn't deteriorate. Their shoes didn't deteriorate. Their feet didn't swell up or anything. Who lives in your clothes and in your shoes, and they never go, they never get too small on you? That's just not natural, those things. And of course, we know that they could have been passing them around, the clothes and hand-me-downs, and however you would like to make it into more practical. The thing is that it's still 40 years the same clothes as being used by one person or another, and it never deteriorated. It says there in scripture. So we know that it was a very cocoon type of life. There are times where they went out to war, but most of the time they were enclosed. People knew about them and people feared them, but they weren't exposed to people. They were pretty much kept and kind of like those 9 months in the womb. And we get that number 10 for congregation, in case we have forgotten. We talked about that in past portions, from the number when Abraham is negotiating, so to speak, with God, and God is getting ready to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, and he says, is there 50, if there 40, if there 30, then he finally gets down to 10. If there's 10, would you still righteous people in the city, would you still destroy it? He says, no, if there are 10, I won't. So that's where 10 righteous people will save that city. I guess as ambassadors, they get to 10 people can spread out the word and invite those in. And just like Abraham left with his wife, and he brought people with him. He had souls, it says, with him. So, and when they came into Egypt, there were 70 with him. So it is the way that God intended for us to grow the kingdom, is on one-on-one, is discipling, is living with, is sharing life with, getting on the journey with others. So we are now looking into this 9 also. Besides the womb, we have the fruit of the Spirit are also, and it's not fruits, it is the fruit of the Spirit. It has 9 different characteristics, right? We see that in Galatians 5:22-23, and we also, 9 also reveals what is concealed inside, just like birth, fruitfulness, multiplication, the building of the house are made visible. Instruction, that what is inside it's seen. So that gives us the 19. Wow. Exodus 25:2. Let's start the portion. It says, speak to the people of Israel that they take for me a contribution, terumah, from every man whose heart moves him, you shall receive the contribution for me. So here we again we're going to the heart of the matter. What is this construction all about? Well, he starts talking about heart. So he is not forcing anybody to do this. He's not as mandatory. Everybody bring all your jewelry and bring all your precious materials or anything like that. He's saying, no, whoever's heart is moved to bring contribution to me, receive it. And that word heart is leb in or lev in Hebrew, and it means, out of the Strong's definition number 3820, inner man. We see Paul talking about the inner man is when he's praying about growing in our inner man. Mind, will, and heart. It can mean any of those things. So if our heart is what helps us make wise choices, how do we know? How do we know that? If that is the case, that we hear that all the time, right? So how do we know that, if that's true or not? Well, we read in Genesis 6:5 that says, then Jehovah saw that the wickedness of man was great on the earth, and that every intent of the thoughts of their hearts was only evil continually. Well, there is a connection between the thoughts. It says the thoughts of their heart. Science have proven now through lots of research, there is a connection between mind and heart. There is some mind-heart connection. And when we, in order to understand that, and what is it that our Messiah came to save, did he come to save our body, our flesh? Did he come to save our spirit? Did he come to save our souls? What is it that he came to save? You know, what needed? What's that? Why is that mind and heart connection important? And not, let's just get stronger and get, bodies really built in a way that we can survive this world, and or who cares about the soul, or who cares about your character and what your will is, or anything like that, because it's all going to go into the ground anyhow, just like your body. So the spirit is the only thing that really matters. Well, let's see what God says about that, because we're just asking questions, we're speculating, but let's see what he says. In Ecclesiastes 12:7 says, before the dust returns to the ground, so that means our bodies, right? From which it came, and the spirit returns to God who gave it. So he's talking about the end of life here in Ecclesiastes. And so before we die, and the dust returns to the ground from which it came. So our body is dust, and it came from the dust, and to the dust it will go back. And then it says that the spirit, which is the other part that is really important, right? We need to grow in the spirit. It says that it will return to God who gave it. So I don't think that part needs to, if it came from God who gave it to us, that life that came from him, and that spirit that it's in us came from him, he's perfect. I don't think that part needs much work to be done. So what's left? We just have the soul, isn't it? That's the part of that leb that we talked about, is that inner man, is the mind, the heart, the will. And that's the part that he came to save. So when we look, so we're going to see a lot of different things on this tabernacle, just to relate it to our lives. So let's start with the materials. So they start talking about the metals that are going to be part of this structure. And we have gold, which represents divine, holy. We have silver, which represents redemption. Remember, things where our souls are being redeemed and we are being purified like silver. It talks about in Proverbs and in Psalms. And then bronze is the metal of judgment. And we see that when the bronze serpent was made, so that people when they saw that bronze serpent, they would not die from, they would face their judgment, whether they will live or not. And that was done by really obeying what he said, because I got bit by a serpent, I have venom in me, and just by looking at something, it's going to disappear. Well, if you believe what God said, you would do it. And yes, those that did lived. So the judgment there is, would you believe my word or not? And would you do what I tell you, even if it sounds silly and dumb and illogical in our mind? Would you obey me? And then you will see the results. And that's what happened then. And of course, it's a precursor of our Messiah being on the cross, and he will be lifted up for all to see. And would we get embarrassed and feel, I'm not going to be part of that? If that's what that religion is, then forget it. I think there are better religions out there. Well, okay. We all have to go through our own cleansing of our hearts. Are we going to obey because God said so, or are we going to believe our own sense of logic and think that we know better? It's our individual walk, and he is so patient with us and so loving, and he will do whatever it needs to for us to understand that, and we will eventually understand all that. Okay, so I want to share with you my screen so that way you can see this little diagram for the tabernacle. Okay, so here we have, and I'm going to use for this, I'm gleaning from different people. So I have here on this first rectangle that you see here, the days of creation. I put them in color like the rainbow, and they correlate with this one in the middle, which is the big rectangular lines out here encase the whole tabernacle. And then we have this number 1 is the bronze altar right here, number 1. Number 2, this little round blue, is the laver. Then number 3 is this rectangular table where the showbread is. Then number 4 is the menorah. Then number 5 is the altar of incense. The menorah is also called the lampstand. And number 6 will be this line here, is a division, is a veil between this all this area, which is the holy place, and this little area, which is the Holy of Holies. And then number 7, we have the Ark of the Covenant. So this little rectangle inside the bigger rectangle is the actual holy place and the Holy of Holies, that it is enclosed and covered. That is not seen from the outside. What everybody can see is the bronze altar and the laver, which are the 2 areas that are public. And in these areas, we have the bronze, which is the metal for judgment, right? So in this area of judgment is where the animal was burned. So, or sacrificed, that's where the offering was taken. And that fire, I put here fire, just to show you that from number 1 starts with fire, number 7 ends with fire. And that fire is holy fire. That means that the fire in this altar came from above. Nobody lit a match and burned and started this fire one day and continue it. This was fire that came from above. God started this process. He was the one who started it, and he is the one who finishes it in this area. So after you go through the sacrifice, the priest would do the sacrifice out here, take the blood, and then take it inside into the holy place, into the Holy of Holies, really, is where he was taking that blood once a year. But after the sacrifice, in order to come inside, he's out there in the dirt, he's out there with the animals, so he needs to wash himself before coming inside the holy place, where the showbread, where the bread is in the show, in the there's an altar, so to speak, where the bread is. It's there all week, and then the priests get to eat it once a week, and new bread is placed during the week, for the week there. Then you have the menorah. They need to tend to the menorah, make sure that it has oil, that it is constantly lit. So this little area here does have light. There is no windows here, and that door is closed. So when you come in, the only light is the light from the menorah, but it does have a light there that you can see. And then the altar of incense, the fire that lights this is the fire that it's from outside. So that I could have put fire here too, and it will be fire, fire, fire 3 times. And it's all the same fire. But now inside, when you go in past the veil and you go into the Holy of Holies, there is no light there. Like I said, there is no windows either, and there is no light there. But the presence of God over the ark is what lights up this area. And as you've seen probably in some pictures, they have like a fire coming out of this place, and it is the fire of God. That pillar of fire would rest right here when he would meet with Moses, when he would come and want the people to see that he was communing and talking to Moses. And then the people would, when the fire, the column of fire would be over the tabernacle, over in between the cherubim on the 2 angels over the ark, then that's when they knew that God was coming closer to meet with them. So people would come and be around the tabernacle or outside their tents. They would come up and they would worship there and I guess experience seeing the presence of God coming close to the camp, or in the midst of the camp, because this tabernacle was in the middle of the whole camp. So with that, the reason that I put there also the progression and the colors is that one day I was paying attention to that. I love to put colors on things, and it helps me to use the 7 colors of the rainbow to see all the different 7s in scripture. But as I was looking at this one day after making it, I realized, you go from red. So look at this this progression here. You go from red to orange to yellow, then goes to blue, kind of like it's cooling down, right? It goes from bright red to orange to yellow, then it goes to green, and green goes to a light blue, and the light blue goes to a darker blue, and then it goes into the purple at the end on 7. And it is kind of like this going through this process of burning, that part of us, anything that is hindering us in a way to be closer to our Father needs to be burned outside. And then you come in and you have the bread, and you have the light, and you have the prayer of the incense, of the altar of incense, and then you go through that veil, and then it cools down until you get to 7, where you rest. Purple is also is a color of divinity, is a color of royalty, but it's also in the aromatic and feeling arena, it's a calming color. It's a color that shows peace, that it shows calmness. So it is really interesting how that starts with fire and it burns away, but it cools you down as you go through the water, and in here, as you come through the prayers, you get to that place of trust, and you get to 7 where you are fully in his presence and in total peace and shalom, right? Another thing that I have here is the separation of our brain. How do we grow, that soul of us, that heart, that mind, that will, those emotions that need to learn to be more at peace, more trusting, more mature. He says, be perfect as I am perfect. So that means be mature as I am mature. We're becoming more and more like him. We see that all the articles, well, not the articles, but the furniture, it's all made out of wood. Well, inside the holy place and the Holy of Holies, because outside is made out of bronze. We talked about that judgment, right? But when you come inside, they are made out of like this altar of incense, and the Ark of the Covenant and the showbread are pieces of furniture that are made out of wood, and they are covered. They are laid with gold, with pure gold. And it's not just, oh, they just put a little veneer on the on outside so it would look like gold. No, it is covered from the outside in every in any area that there was wood. It's completely covered. If it has something inside, then like if it's a box, then even the inside, everything is covered. Everything. So if you think about it, if we are like trees and we came out of the earth like trees are made out of wood, then we are covered by the divinity, that gold, the divinity of God. And he is telling us, yes, you are but dust, but I cover you. I cover you fully. And not another thing that was really interesting to me was, well, we'll get into that as we read the scriptures in a minute. But the other thing that I wanted to bring about was that in here, as you see this little brain, this red area is the part of the survival mode, it's called, is the basal part of our brain, that it is very like the animals, is a part where there is no reason. There is no really logical thinking. You just react to whatever happens in a survival mode. You fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, depending on what type of situation you're in and what you have learned to cope with in those moments of threat. Your life is being threatened in any given way, and you respond in that manner because it's something that we learn to do in order to survive. Well, when we go to this area out here, that judgment, that fire, and then the cleansing with the water, it is a place of very primal. It's very where the animal is taken. So if you think about your brain, it's actually they call that place also a reptilian brain, is the part of that beastly like that natural part of us that came from the dirt, just like animals were, and we are alike in that area. And one of the things that I glean a little bit, so up here is Dr. Vicky Bailey, and down here is part of one of the teachings that Robert Foreman had for this week's teaching, this Terumah. And he was talking about how the light originates from above and it consumes the flesh. So 95% of what we see really is dark energy. only 5% is the light that we see. His light starts and ends the tabernacle. It is at the beginning at the brazen altar, and it is in between the cherubims. And it is public. It represents repentance. It represents washing. Then he talks about space. And space is that rakia, that separation when you're building. And on the second day of creation, he separated the upper waters and the lower waters, and he created that space in between. It's called the rakia of that space. And we'll go into the word, which is really interesting in the Hebrew, but it's where we breathe. That's where our lungs and heart, that which represents our emotions and desires, before the veil. The veil has also cherubims. So he has those angels. Remember we had when they came out of Adam and Eve came out of the Garden of Eden, there were two angels with a flaming sword. So we have that fire outside. And then we have in the veil, we also have angels again, right before you enter into the holy place. And that is kind of like that closing of the garden. You cannot come in, because if you eat from the tree of life, then you will stay in the state that you're in forever. Oh, excuse me. Well, went away. And so here we have two angels are embroidered in this veil. And we know that when Yeshua died on the cross, that veil, at the moment that he died, that veil was rent from the top down to the bottom, like from heaven again. God initiated that also, so that there will be an entrance into this holy place. And in the New Testament, the word used for our heart is actually being the temple of God. It is not the temple, the whole temple is that Holy of Holies. So, and we know that in this ark were the tablets of the testimony, the ones that God wrote with his own finger. So we see that in this, there is light, there is space that he created for us. So it's kind of like in this area, we are learning between the bread, who is Messiah, the light, who is Messiah, and the prayers, which is he intercedes for us. He continually, daily, he intercedes for us before the throne. So we see him represented in this space, and it's in this space that we grow. This is our journey, that we are going towards less of us and more of him. That wood under the gold would eventually disappear. And the beauty of this room is that even though these two altars have wood with gold, covered with gold, which represents us, the menorah is actually made completely of gold. It has nothing else, no other element, but it's made out of one pure piece of gold. And that we know that in Revelation, he is in the midst of the menorahs of the lampstand. So we know that he is. And number 4 is that middle of the Acacia structure. If you put here in a menorah, number 1, 2, 3, number 4 will be right in the middle. And that was the middle of that piece of gold is from where the 6 other areas, the 6 branches on one side, it's 3 branches on the other side, 3 and 3, become those 6 branches come out of. So it's just amazing to me how all that, and if actually you can see it right here. It's a tiny little picture, but you can see that, and that number 4 becomes actually the 4th thing in the holy place. And so we are constantly living in this space, right? And the light is out here because that light is that 5% that we can actually see. In here, there is no light but the light of him. Everything is covered with many coverings. And like I said, there is no window. So he is the light, the pure gold in this area. And then you have in this area, in the Holy of Holies, you do have an ark that is made out of wood and covered with gold, but what goes on top of the ark, it's all pure gold. Those cherubims that are being formed in that cover, what it's called the mercy seat, the place where that blood was going to be placed on from the sacrifice outside, would be between on that mercy seat, and that part is also pure gold. So we have that in this area, the mercy seat is that divine place, and out here, what is full divine place is that light of the menorah. And so then up here in time, if we think about this curtain being rent, it's kind of like we go back into that Garden of Eden. He has given us access because we see in John 10 that Messiah is the door, right? So think about that veil being rent. He is the door, and we can go through him in and out to find pasture. So you've heard me say this before, those that know me, that, is it going into heaven and coming out? Because we can do that. When we go, we're there. And whenever I go, I'm not coming out. I'm not going in to find food and coming out to do what with it, right? But if you think about this being a time in place where we actually meet with him, because that's what that mercy seat was the place of meeting, that where he met with him. He was in the middle of the two cherubims. So that's where we meet with him. This is kind of like a little Garden of Eden, so to speak, on earth. And that represents the place of number 7 is the 7th day of the week, which is Shabbat. So that becomes our Shabbat, is that place where we meet with him, is that place where we come, and just like Yeshua says, you come through me, because he says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Nobody comes to the Father except through me. So he's the one that rent the veil. He's the one that has allowed us in, and we can come into that time of Shabbat on that 7th day of the week, where he called holy, and this is the Holy of Holies, and that he has separated from all the days of the week, a special day for us to meet with him and to partake of his peace, his shalom. And in this room, he is all the light there is. Just like out here, this is our journey. This is the way, the truth, and the life. Right here, we're just sojourning. We're on the way home, and it is through him. So, but when you bring that up to those 3 places of light, space, and time, and you bring it to the brain, this little blue side, from the red, you go into the blue, and the blue is the part of your emotions. So this is what this area becomes, this place where we deal with our emotions, we deal with past pain and hurts and good memories, bad memories, whatever it is. That's where actually the library with all our emotions is right there in that middle place. And it's called the limbic place. And then you get to the green part, which I put here as green and purple as the place of being with him, because he is green and Holy of Holies is purple, is that mind and heart connection. And when we know that we have the mind of Messiah, so that's where our little brain is. This is the part where we reason. That is the part of logic. That is the part where fear is not ruling. The red part is where fear rules. And that's why you can't think, because there is no thinking in fear. Fear is concerned with punishment. Fear is concerned, I'm going to die. Fear is concerned with, I'm starving, I'm tired, I'm thirsty. That's what fear and that survival mode is all about. Anything, you don't even care if you're going to have children. That's why Esau couldn't care about his firstborn blessing or anything. Who cares about that? I'm going to die right now. That is the typical response of survival mode. Right now, I'm dying and nothing else matters. Literally, all the other parts of when you are in survival mode, everything else stops. Everything else, even if you are in the middle of digestion and you have to run, all the blood leaves the stomach and goes to your arms and your legs to fight. Because who cares if you're going to have a good digestion or not, if you're going to die? So there are things, who cares if your hormones are working and you have, if you're ready for procreation or not when you're going to die. None of that matters. All it matters is that you survive the moment. If it's run. If it's, eating something because you're starving, it is eating. And in that area, in that red area, and that's why Esau, it's called Edom, red. It's because that red area, it is I, me, and myself. It is very selfish. It's very self-centered because I don't have time to take care of you. I have to take care of me. So, but as we progress into that area, that blue area, then those are feelings. We are calmer. We're not in the place of I'm going to die, even though we may feel we're going to die, but we're not really in danger. And we say, oh, this is horrible, I'm going to die. So then your feelings may make you think that you're dying, but you're really not in danger. So, but you're still, because your emotions now are the ones ruling, you're still not thinking straight. And until you get to the green area where your survival mode, it's okay. Your limbic, it's okay. I feel safe. I feel loved. I feel connected. I can learn. So then you get to that green part, and it is where the executive function of our brain works, and that's where Messiah is. And where Messiah is, there's love, there's peace, there's calm, there's reasoning. That is actually where the mathematical, logical part of your brain works. So it's really interesting how he has put all that together for us. The other thing that I wanted to bring back from Exodus, and with this journey, so to speak, that we have to, we are in that middle section. We have been already saved. This red part, remember, the red was the Passover. So we've already been saved. We went through the unleavened bread, and we're inside where resurrection has happened. So we are in the midst of in Shavuot is where he gives us the law. That is number 4. And we have the place of Sukkot, which is the 5th, and then the 6th is Yom Kippur. All this takes care of here. It takes place there. And then we finally get to Sukkot, the last one where it will be our final destination. But I just wanted to bring this to mind so that we are encouraged as we take this journey, that when in Exodus, in 6:6, which is really interesting because it's the number of man and it's the number of beast. And he is telling us, I want you to understand this so that your journey through this life, your journey through those areas in your heart that needs to be saved, that needs to be changed, that needs to be more like me, are areas that you are not in fear, that you are not thinking you're going to die, that you're going to suffer, that you are going, who knows, be tortured or whatever. He doesn't want us to go through this life with that in mind. He wants us to grow and be mature, healthy adults. that are full of love, because we are loved, and that's how we are going to love others. The kingdom of God is based, the currency is love, because God says that he is love. He's full of mercy, compassion, truth, loving kindness. So he never says, I'm full of anger. And he actually says he's slow to anger. So he is telling us who he is. But in this is really amazing. I put them in colors, in the colors of that I gave you up there of the days of creation, because there are sevens I will. He said in Exodus 6:6, say, therefore, to the sons of Israel, I am Jehovah, and I will, first one, bring you out of under the labor of the Egyptians. That is Passover. He deliver us from slavery. He will. He said that is his first I will, and he did. His second one, I will rescue you from their bondage. So it's not like I'm going to take you out, but you're no longer going to be in bondage, because he could have taken them out and be slaves out, right? No, not slaves anymore. 3, I will also redeem you with an outstretched arm and with great judgments. So he made sure that not only will I take you out, you will not be in bondage anymore, but I will redeem. I'm going to change all those places that you were hurt, that things happened against you, that you weren't thinking straight. That is that third day of resurrection. He will turn everything that was meant for evil. He's going to turn it for good for us. So all those things, we will not suffer in vain. Those things have a redeeming purpose. He will do that. He's not going to leave us with all those scars, so to speak. 4, I will take you as my people. So we get now to the middle of the menorah. We get to that place of Shavuot where he is betrothing his bride. He's saying, you are mine, and I'm putting that ring on your finger, I'm putting those shoes on your feet, I'm putting that robe on you, and you are mine, like he did with the prodigal son, right? Then 5, I will be your God, and you shall know that I am Jehovah, your God, who brought you from under the labors of the Egyptian. So we will know that is that place of Yom Teruah, the Feast of Tabernacles on day 5, when he comes back and he says, it's time to get ready for the wedding. Then the 6th one, it is, I will bring you to the land which I swore to give to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So then there is that place of not just I'm taking you out, I'm going to redeem you, you're going to be mine. You will no longer be, you will know who you are, not just that you're out and free and not in bondage, but you're out there running around not knowing who you are. No, you are mine. You're my people, and I am your God. We have someone that we belong to. And then he says that I'm going to give you that land. So there is that promise of the land that he gave to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and it's ours. We are part of that covenant. It's all of ours. And then 7 is the last one, where it culminates into, I will give it to you as a possession. So you will rule and reign in that land. You will have peace. You have arrived. That is your place where nobody's going to take you out. I made that garden for Adam and Eve, and they had to learn the importance to obey me in order to live in my house. You've been out there for this 6,000 years, and you will be coming in and living in the land. in the place that originally I made for you. This is your place. I'm giving it to you. And I love the way he ends. I am Jehovah. It's like, and who said that? I did. Here, I'm signing it myself. So it is really important that we have those 7 I wills in our heart. So as we're going through this life and things get hard and things don't add up, and you think, what happened here? Why is this happening to me? There is something that he's doing. Just apply those 7 I will and keep it in front of you and know that he will finish. Philippians 1:6, he will finish. I wrote it here. We have 2 witnesses. So this is all the I wills in Exodus 6:6, right? And we go to Philippians 1:6 is the second witness in the New Testament. And it says, being confident of this very thing, that he who began a good work in you and me will perform it until the day of Yeshua the Messiah. That is that 5th day when he comes and back on Yom Teruah and the Feast of Trumpets. He's coming back again. So that is the day of Yeshua when he comes back for the second time. We know that what he started, all those I will with him, he signed it. So he will finish what he started. So then another little thing that I just wanted to point out that I said before I would, in Exodus 25:8, it says, have them construct, that word is asa, a sanctuary for me, so that I may dwell among them, according to all that I am going to show you as the pattern of the tabernacle and the pattern of all its furniture, so that you shall construct it. So here he's talking about, tell them that they're going to build. So we are building, I'm building my own temple, my own holy of holies, my own art, my own life. I'm molding it. I am yielding to his molding me, and I allow him to. And I said, yes, Father, do what you need to do. Make me into the shape that I can fit, because I'm a living stone of that temple. So I need to fit with my brothers and sisters to create this bigger temple for you. And I yield to him and I say, yes, work in me. Whatever I need to do, show me. I want to obey. I want to be exactly who I need to be, who you created me to be. So that is my part. I have to mold that. I have to make it. I'm working on that. And it is all according to what he showed. He gave a pattern, that pattern of being wood and covered with gold. It is his pattern. It is what he showed Moses. He told him, show them this. Why do you think we read the scriptures? I'm counting it every week for you and with you. And we do it throughout the year, and we do it again and again and again, because it is important that we learn these patterns and we apply them to our lives right here, right now, in the year 2022 or the year 5782 in the Hebrew calendar. So he's telling us, this is for you. Just keep digesting, keep eating, keep chewing the cud, let it come up, and again, meditate on my word. Well, when does that word asa come, was used in scriptures for the first time? What is the first mention? It's in Genesis 1:7. And it says, God made asa, that is do or make, the number in Strong's 62:13, the expanse, and separate the waters that were below the expanse and the waters that were above the expanse, and it was so. So when God made the space, if we go back to this little, here you go, this little tabernacle that I made here, remember we talked about the space? This is that space. He created that space for us to live in. That is the place where we grow. That's where that is the place that we're constructing our ark, our tabernacle. We are living our lives according to his pattern. how he created the tabernacle and its furniture. Okay, so then in Exodus 25:10, it's I saw something this time that I hadn't seen before, and it says, "Now they shall construct an ark of acacia wood." We said that before, and it gives all the, the cubits and and it gives all the dimensions. "You shall overlay it with pure gold." So we talked about that divine part. We are wood, we are but flesh, and we are but dust. We came from the dust, and to the dust we will return, right? We saw in Ecclesiastes. But then we have an overlay of pure gold. That was the word used for the menorah. We are made in his image. So this is who we need to look like. When that wood underneath the gold disappears, more of him and less of me, then it will be all pure gold, just like him. Inside and out, you shall overlay it. So not just a little veneer on the outside so people think I'm gold. No. All over me. He's not leaving any part of my humanity exposed. He's covering me back again. Because remember, Adam and Eve lost that covering that they had, and they saw themselves naked. Well, we're naked. So he is covering us with his gold inside and out. You shall overlay it, and you shall make a gold molding around it. This is the part that I missed. Many times I've done this. I don't know why. There is a molding around it. Why? He is making sure that we remember, when I hit my brother, when I'm mean to my brother or sister, when I am not careful to treat others as holy, because they are God's creation and belong to him, and he made them holy like he made me holy. That means separate, made in his image. Every human being deserves to be respected. Every human being needs to be treated like there is gold, not just all around him, but there is, inside and out, but there is a molding, there is a rim of God around each one of us, so that we don't hurt each other, so that we are not mean to each other, so that we respect each other, so that we keep our distance from not being separate in a way because they had little rings that there were bars that would go in to be, so that could be carried from one place to another every time the tabernacle moved, and so that they can be moved by humans, not by beasts. So we don't move people like they are cattle. We don't use an animal to push them. We don't have a dog barking at them to move them. That means we don't do that to each other. We treat each other with love. We treat each other with respect. We treat each other with dignity, because they are covered with gold, and they are God's. And whether I see that gold or not, that gold may not be evident yet, because they're not treating themselves, they're not bringing themselves into. Remember, it had to be a heart that brings those metals, that brings those gifts, those contributions to God, and they may not know that they are holy, that they are made in God's image, and that God desires to put a ring on their finger, to put a robe on them, to put sandals on their feet. They're still running around looking for him in different places where he is not. But that's why we are firstborns. We are looking for those. He left the 99, Yeshua said, and to go and get that one that went astray. So that is our job. Our job is to help, as ministers of reconciliation, reconcile people back to God. Reconcile. Okay, here goes. Oh my goodness. Okay. So we see that covering is inside and out. The fire purifies metals, but destroys wood, right? What hay and straw. We read in 1 Corinthians 3:11, for no one can lay a foundation other than the one which is laid, which is Jesus Christ, or Yeshua the Messiah. So that means that there is a foundation in all of us because he made us in his image. So there is a foundation in all of us that may be very, very much covered by our flesh, but it's that is being burned away, purified by God by fire, because our God is an all-consuming fire, is bringing us closer and closer to that place, that lower water is like that foundation. So when he's separated, we're here working on us, but there is a foundation that he has laid, and there is the upper waters, the divine waters. Our Father is here, and those two are one. So they need to reflect each other. So everything that is in the middle has to be burned away and chisel out, be formed into the right piece that fits that big puzzle, so that it would make sense. But this is the beauty of it. Number 12 says, now if anyone builds on the foundation, which is his word, his son, with gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, or straw, each one's work will become evident, for the day will show it, because it is to be revealed with fire. Remember, the tabernacle started with fire and it will end with fire. That fire is from above, it's not an earthly fire. That first fire that kills, that burns away and destroys the flesh, or that wood, hay, or straw, that is a very much alive fire, just like we see on that altar. But then when you go in through all those processes and you get to the last, that pillar of fire that was over the mercy seat, remember this, over the mercy seat, there were 4 layers of skin, of leather, just like us, and nothing burned. Just like when Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were inside the furnace, and it was the fire, the heat was raised how many times? 7 times. You know, all that is not coincidence. God is putting that there so that we get it. Do you remember that? My 7 I will. What was the only thing that burned in them? They were all tied in. The cords, whatever was it that they used to tie them in and throw them inside that fire, furnace. So we have to remember that he is making all those connections. Pay attention. I'm talking to you. Listen to this. And eventually we get it and we go, oh my goodness, you've been showing me this all along. How did I miss it? Well, we do. We miss a lot of stuff, but that's why we go over it again and again and again. And we do it not by myself. We do it together in community, and we discuss it. It's not a pew to pulpit to pew type of thing. That is not the way God intended this to be. The word was read, and then the person who read it sat down with the rest and they discussed it. They talked about it. And what about this? And what about that? And it says this and it said that, but it says over here this and it says over there that. It was open. There was not this, I'm the only one who talks and I'm the only one who knows. No. We all learn with each other. Somebody will say something that is like, ooh, I hadn't thought about that. That is a really good point. We had that this Shabbat, and it was awesome. So with that said, do this, wrestle with that word like Jacob did. He wrestled, and the only part that came out limping was the place where the belt of truth went, because he was a liar and a deceiver. So there is a part of us that may limp afterwards, but it doesn't matter. We are free. You are walking in victory as an overcomer at the end of it. He became Israel, from Jacob, deceiver, to, or supplanter, to Israel, one who wrestles with God and man and prevails. So as we read here, it says that all the fire does is reveal, test the quality of each one's work. It's not talking about you. It's not, let me see how good you are, and the fire will tell me if you're good or you're not. It's your work. What have you done? I've given you this life. I've given you all the different things for you to do something with it. And what have you done with that? What have you built over that foundation? If anyone's work, which he has built on it remains, that means goes through the fire, he will receive a reward. Awesome. You did good. Good job. If anyone's work, now person, is burned up, he will suffer loss. Yeah, I made that whole thing, that whole tower, and that Tower Babel, and it burned away. Nothing was left over after that. Well, I lost that. All that work that I put in is gone. It needed to be gone because that was not what God wanted us to do with the time and effort and gifts and everything that he has given us, he has provided for us. There is something that he wants us to do, but he himself will be saved. Oh my goodness. Can I say that again? But he himself will be saved. He, not his work, but he. Yet only so us through fire. Do you not know that you are a temple of God? Here we are again. Second witness. We're talking about the temple. At the beginning, what? Just something that they only had it for a little bit during those years of the wilderness, and then we don't even know we don't know any of them. They're all dead. It's gone. What was that all about? No. He's telling us it's a pattern. A pattern means that you repeat it over and over and over. So it means something different in each generation. It doesn't mean, it looks different in each generation, but it's still the same pattern. Okay. Do you not know that you are a temple of God and that the Spirit of God dwells in you? Remember, the Spirit goes back where it came from. The Father gave it. So he's telling us, okay, you made this house for me to dwell in you. What are you doing with that house? What does that house look like? Does it look like my pattern, says the Lord, or does it look like your house? Because I gave you a pattern so that I can dwell in it. That is the house I want to dwell in. And if you want to make the house however you want it, well, good. I'm glad you did. And I hope you enjoyed it, because it's going to be burned away. That's not what I wanted you to use, the materials that I gave you and the time and the effort and everything that you needed in order for you to build that house. That I gave you a pattern. Why couldn't you do it the way I wanted it, right? If anyone destroys the temple of God, God will destroy that person. For the temple of God is holy, is separate, is not anything that I make the way I want it or you want it. It is his pattern. Is separate from all the buildings that we can ever make. It is the building how he wanted, separate. And that is what you are. We are that. And it is important that we take all this, because then we can go down here and say, oh, he was going to destroy that person. Well, temporarily, because it says very clearly here that he will be saved. At the end of time, he will be saved. So the word doesn't contradict itself. If he says this here, then this down here means something that is not what I think, because it's saying very clearly here that he will destroy that person, for you are the temple and the temple is holy. So there is something that will eventually happen. And when that safety, that being saved for the world to come, that person will be saved, but it will have nothing to show, because not only didn't do what God had given him, but he actually destroyed somebody else. And there is life for life. If I kill someone, there was a death penalty. It wasn't like, oh, it's okay, God is love, you can kill someone, it's okay. No, we break the law and we will suffer the consequences. And he said, do not murder. And if you do, you will die too. Now, there was, and we did this before in another of the portions where, and we will go more in detail later on, there are places that if you did it by mistake, you didn't intend to kill someone, you hurt someone, you did something, there's restitution, but if it went beyond, that person actually died, then you have a place to go. And that place to go, those were the cities of refuge, were a place that you can go. Like I said before, you will go with your family and you will live there under people. That's where the priests were living, the Levites, and you will learn a good example, a good pattern, so that you're not being put with other criminals, so that you learn how to be a better criminal when you get out. On the contrary, you will learn how to be a good, healthy, and responsible member of the community when you come out of those places that you were able to come out when the high priest died, but not until then. So there was a time that you had to stay and pay for what you've done. So with that said, goodness, this has been a little bit longer, but stop sharing. I hope that this was a blessing to you. Have a great week.